Now, it may not be ideal or indeed very practical, but sometimes it is unavoidable that movie producers will have to recast a famous role. Maybe it's because of a star's untimely passing, like when Michael Gambon replaced Richard Harris as Dumbledore. Perhaps there's been a behind-the-scenes falling out, like the one that caused Terrence Howard to leave the MCU, or maybe a big star sees the writing on the wall and abandons a failing series before it's too late. And there are hundreds of examples for that one. But while some are pretty obvious, others just slip by the radar and fans just went away thinking, yeah, this has always been the same actor, right? Well, apparently not so. So let's take a look at them a bit closer. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 major movie recastings you didn't even notice. The first time around, that is. Number 10, Zachary Levi as Fandral. Thor: The Dark World. Now, you'd be forgiven for forgetting who Fandral was, let alone that he was recast between the first two Thor movies. Fandral is one of the Warriors 3 alongside Volstagg and Hogun. Comic book readers will know them as a hero team in their own right, whilst also serving as backup to Thor in his adventures. And that's the same role that they play in the movies, but it's toned way, way down. In the first Thor movie, Fandral is played by Joshua Dallas, who is best known for his role as Prince Charming in the TV show Once Upon a Time. And it was actually this show that ultimately cost him his part in the MCU, as he had to turn down an appearance in Thor: The Dark World due to scheduling conflicts. That's where Zachary Levi, who'd been up for the role in the first place, was brought in. He had been busy on the show Chuck when Thor was filming, but was then free to take on the part in the sequel. The change was almost unnoticeable because of Fandral's diminished on-screen role more than anything else. Number 9, Warwick Davis as GRIPHOOK, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. As an employee of Gringotts Bank, GRIPHOOK is partly responsible for the majority of the money that passes through the wizarding world. His appearances bookend the Harry Potter films. His first came in the first movie, The Philosopher's Stone, and his second and last was during the two-part finale, The Deathly Hallows. In Philosopher's Stone, the Goblin is voiced by Warwick Davis, who also portrays Hogwarts Professor Flitwick. However, he was portrayed physically by the late Vern Troyer, whose legacy lives on thanks to his role as Mini-Me in the Austin Powers movies. By the time GRIPHOOK was needed again, Davis had completely taken over the role from Troyer. It was speculated that this was part of an edict that all major characters in Harry Potter should be portrayed by either British or Irish actors. So when GRIPHOOK's part was expanded for Deathly Hallows, the American Troyer was unfortunately let go. Ultimately, this recasting didn't do a great deal of harm. Davis was already the voice of the character, so it made sense to just let him play it in full. Number 8, Mary Alice as the Oracle, Matrix Revolutions. When she's not making a delightful batch of cookies, the Oracle serves as a sort of narrator across the original Matrix films. Depicted as a nice old lady inside the Matrix, the Oracle first appears to aid Neo and his team using her powers of foresight, and it is she who prophesizes the coming of the One and that Neo will have to sacrifice his life for Morpheus's. Gloria Foster plays the character in the first Matrix movie and reprised her role for the sequel, The Matrix Reloaded. Unfortunately, before filming could begin for her part in The Matrix Revelations, Foster passed away due to complications with diabetes. She was just 67. In the face of this tragedy, the team behind the movie needed to find a new Oracle and so cast Mary Alice in Foster's place. Alice was an accomplished actor on both big and small screens, even winning an Emmy in 1993 for her work on the TV show I'll Fly Away. Sadly, there was no getting around this recasting. Gloria Foster's untimely passing forced the director's hands, but thankfully they were able to find a replacement who was able to carry the role with the weight that it deserved. Number 7, Doug Jones as Abe Sapien, Hellboy 2: The Golden Army. As that one Simpsons gag with Ned Flanders proves, you can change voice actors and nobody will know diddly otis the difference. And that's exactly what happened to the character of Abe Sapien between the two Guillermo del Toro-led Hellboy films from the noughties. Part man, part amphibian, with some psychic powers thrown in to boot, Sapien is also a member of the Bureau for Paranormal Research and Defense. He helps the title character take on Grigory Rasputin as he attempts to unleash a series of demonic creatures on Earth. Yeah, Hellboy was a bit of a weird film when you think about it. Abe Sapien is portrayed here by Doug Jones, a Del Toro regular who played both the Faun and the Pale Man in Pan's Labyrinth. However, he's voiced by David Hyde Pierce, best known as Fraser's snooty brother, Niles Crane. For the 2000 sequel to Hellboy, Del Toro's favoritism actually got the better of him, and he let Jones do the voice of the character as well. And Jones does a great job aping Pierce's well-spoken voice, and in fact the differences are so subtle that nobody but the credits would actually know the difference. Actually, considering that Pierce was uncredited for his role in the first film, even he wouldn't have noticed. Number 6. Adam Carl and Laurie Faso as Donatello and Raphael. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2: The Secret of the Ooze. 1990s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles inspired a generation to fall in love with oversized reptiles. The film was a huge box office smash, and naturally, it was followed up by a sequel the very next year. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2: The Secret of the Ooze once again shone a light on the sewer-dwelling crime fighters, Leonardo, Michelangelo, Donatello, and Raphael. The voice actors of those first two both came back for the second movie, but the producers needed to find a replacement for the latter duo. Raphael had previously been voiced by Josh Pace, who is still working but hasn't done much of note since the Turtles movie. As for Donatello, his original voice actor was Corey Feldman, child sensation and maker of, well, let's face it, some really bad movies. As a result of those departures, Laurie Faso was replaced Pace and Adam Carl replaced Feldman. But finding out anything about these two is a pretty tall order though. But Carl did once provide additional voices for the My Little Pony TV show. Thankfully, the Turtles themselves were the stars of these movies, so nobody minded that a former Goonie was missing from the cast. Number 5. Ross Marquand as Red Skull, Avengers Infinity War. Of all the twists and turns Avengers Infinity War put us through, few were as genuinely shocking as the return of the Red Skull. The principal villain in Captain America: The First Avenger, Red Skull hadn't been seen in the MCU since he was sucked through a portal by the Tesseract at the end of that movie. It turns out that he'd been relocated to the planet Vormir, doomed to serve as the keeper of the Soul Stone. Skull, also known as Johann Schmidt, was brought to life in The First Avenger by Hugo Weaving. Despite being asked to return to the role in Infinity War, Weaving declined, saying that he was done with his time in superhero movies. Stepping in to fill the Weaving-shaped hole in the project was Ross Marquand, who plays Aaron in The Walking Dead, and he did an amazing turn as Schmidt, copying Weaving's German accent to a T. He was so good, in fact, that Marvel kept him around. He voiced Red Skull again in the What If series and has lent his pipes to the character of Ultron on a number of occasions. Number 4. Jeffrey Weissman as George McFly, Back to the Future Part 2. Hapless loser turned superstar George McFly is one of the biggest winners from his son Marty's trip to the past in the original Back to the Future. In that film, McFly is played by Crispin Glover, but a behind-the-scenes argument kept him out of the next installment. According to Glover, he was offered $125,000 to do the sequel. This was apparently less than half of what fellow returning cast members were promised, causing Glover to kick off. He also stated that he didn't agree with the message of the movie, that the characters were rewarded for their actions not with love, but with financial gain. For those reasons, and whatever else, Glover did not appear as George in Back to the Future Part 2. Instead, the crew got creative and brought in veteran actor Jeffrey Weissman. Weissman, who younger viewers might know as Screech's guru on Saved by the Bell, wore prosthetics to look more like Crispin Glover. This sparked a lawsuit from the original George McFly, claiming that the film was using his likeness without his consent. As a result, actors today have much more freedom over who uses their image, all thanks to Marty McFly's dad. Number 3. Huckleberry Milner as Dash Parr, Incredibles 2. Now, the problem with child actors is that they eventually grow up and stop being cute anymore. This is exactly what happened with Spencer Fox, the voice of Dash Parr in 2004's Pixar movie The Incredibles. Fox was just 11 when that film came out, the perfect age to be voicing a peppy preteen. However, when the sequel dropped in 2018, the actor was a jaw-dropping 25 years of age. I mean, he's practically a pensioner. The producers of Incredibles 2 clearly thought the same thing, and so they recast Dash with another person who sounds like they could have been a Bruce Willis character, Huckleberry Milner. Milner was the same age as Fox when he played Dash, so the recasting actually makes sense. He was also a complete newcomer, so it's nice that Pixar was able to give him such a huge platform so early on in his career. Number 2. Ian McDiarmid as Emperor Palpatine, Return of the Jedi. Scottish actor Ian McDiarmid is a former Shakespearean actor and the recipient of both the Tony and an Olivier Award, but most know him as the guy that just shouts "Do it" in Revenge of the Sith. He's played Emperor Palpatine in all 3 of the Star Wars trilogies, but his first appearance as the hooded leader of the Galactic Empire did not actually happen as early as some people think. The actor was retrospectively cut into hologram conversations with Darth Vader in The Empire Strikes Back, and this was for the 2004 DVD release of the film, and is just one of the many tweaks that George Lucas has made to his creations over the years, and fans just love him for it. A woman named Marjorie Eaton, a 79-year-old former painter, provided Palpatine's face in the original film. She was heavily made up, had chimpanzee eyes superimposed over her own, and and was voiced by Clive Revill, who got credit for the film instead of her. By the time the Emperor needed to appear in his full form, McDiarmid was already signed on. However, Eaton's contribution to the film should not be overlooked, especially considering that she wasn't even acknowledged for it at the time. And number 1, Josh Brolin as Thanos, Guardians of the Galaxy. In a complete reversal of the other entries on this list, people may not have known that Thanos actually had a different voice actor before Josh Brolin stepped into the fold. First fully appearing in Guardians of the Galaxy, the big bad of the MCU was played by Brolin in both Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. As the Mad Titan, Brolin tore through Earth's mightiest heroes and temporarily turned half the universe into dust using the Infinity Gauntlet. Marvel early adopters will remember that Thanos first appeared during a post-credit scene of the Avengers in 2012. He's being told about the Chitauri's failed assault on Earth and seems to smile at the idea of courting death. However, that is not Josh Brolin. Thanos is actually portrayed by Damien Poitier, an actor with a bunch of uncredited appearances in films like Star Trek and Dreamgirls. He performed his role in full makeup and costume and was excited about playing the villain as he had been an avid comic reader since childhood. Sadly, he was passed over for the permanent role of Thanos in favor of the much more famous Brolin. Still, at least he can be proud to have played a part in one of the biggest film franchises of all time, even if it was just a brief one. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 major movie recastings you didn't even notice. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below. As always, I've been Jules. You can go follow me over on Twitter at RetroJ with a 0, or you can swing by Instagram where it's the same handle. And I'd love to see you over there, my friends. And I'll speak to you soon. Bye.